Hey there, this is Shade, and I would like to show you a little ship that I use. I call it a survival ship or a recovery ship, and it's something that you can make with almost no research whatsoever. So with just 50 knowledge or 2 databanks, any character in the game can make a ship that can go faster than 30 knots without engines and without wings. Of course, without wings it's going to be a little less maneuverable than you might like, but it'd also be lighter. So this guy doesn't have anything. I mean, I've got some stuff that I am saving because I use this character I play with this character, not a brand new alt. So we're just going to use whatever I can gather. You also see that there's some pretty high quality stuff here. I'm in tier 2. I'm in the Expanse. So I could grab some of this stuff if I wanted to, but I'm going to attempt to do so without using the scrap piles, just to kind of simulate a little bit more what it's like for a new player just rolling out of their spawner and getting into the game. Now I do the same thing if I lose a ship to another player or to bugs. I'll build myself a survival or recovery ship. Usually I'll use what I have in my belt to do that, and that's why I've got all this stuff here. But really, a tiny little ship that goes quite fast, does everything you need it to do inside a zone. Oh good, iron. It's pretty easy to get, if you know what you're doing. Now, it's not new players' fault that they don't know what they're doing, and that's why I'm making this video. It can take a little while to fully understand the relationship between weight and speed in a ship, and to understand how the different materials affect the weight of the ship and the speed of the ship. So we're going to make a really simple little ship that is pretty much guaranteed to be faster than any ship with engines in Tier 1. Well, not in Tier 1, but made with Tier 1 or Tier 2 engines. Looks like lead. Oh, nope, tin. Hey, even better. We'll take that. Now I'm going to need something to make my shipyard and whatnot out of. But tin is really lightweight, so I'll use that for the deck. Iron is also fairly lightweight overall. Oh, copper. Copper makes a good internal for Skycore. With this ship, it doesn't much matter. We're not trying to min-max weight with it. We're just trying to get back in the air. Oh, got enough. That's actually probably almost enough to make the ship. We'll try it and get some more stuff if we need it. Now we need wood. This is ash. Ash is a sort of heavy wood. I think it even says so when you scan it. Purple leaves are incredibly... I guess not. Anyway, we'll just carry on. If I have a choice, I'll use cedar, hemlock, or birch to do this, because I want it to be as light as possible. The lighter a ship is, the faster the same amount of power in your sails will make it go. So you can make a ship out of anything, and it'll work. But if you really want to go fast, or as fast as possible, it's best to use the lightest materials that you can, or the lightest materials that are strong enough. Part of the reason I don't care much about either the quality or the materials I'm using with this kind of ship is that I know I can replace it really quickly if it gets sunk. It's not a ship I invest a lot in. I've invested a bit in the design, making sure that it works for what I need it to, and that took a little bit of time. But you could do the same thing I'm going to do with a dinghy frame. It'd be a little bit slower, but not much. A little stutter there. My computer isn't really ideal for both playing and recording at the same time. But we'll live. Good enough. Good enough to get the point across. So I've got 450 ash. Now I know I want to have 4 sails, so that's 400. And it's going to be another 100 for the helm. And if I want storage, I'm going to make that out of ash too. Or whatever. It would be whatever wood you decide to use. I'd make it all the same. That way, you can just keep repair mats as a stack of wood in your belt. Like that. You don't have to worry about losing it. You can give pirates everything else. You can give them all your bronze, your lead, your lower quality iron. If you're separating out qualities. And they'll be happy with that, and for the most part, they'll be happy with that at least. And you keep what you need to recover in your belt. Not perfect, but as the game is now, it's a perfectly reasonable way of hedging your bets against the inevitability of losing your ship and everything that's stored on it. Now, I don't say that by way of insinuating that player versus player is necessarily going to ruin your day over and over again. I've actually lost far more ships to bugs in this game than I have to other players. That's actually happening less now. The game is getting more stable overall. But still, it's an open world PvP game. You'll never know who you're running into until it's too late. You've already run into them. So it's always best to be prepared and ready for potential problems in the game, even if they don't crop up. Alright, 840 ought to be plenty. Oh, I don't have trash mats to make my... Do I? I think I do. Let's see. Shipbuilding. Shipyard. Use some of this copper. I want to have enough copper left over for my sky core. It'd be nice to get a little bit more mats. A little bit more metal. Now, hanging and mining is something that newer players sometimes take a little while to get down. And I highly recommend practicing this every opportunity you get. Especially in lower tier zones where the materials aren't worth all that much. And the majority of the players in the lower tier zones aren't as experienced. They generally won't hang around doing what I call the hanging mining game here. I missed that one. No worries. So you can often find plenty of materials on the sides and bottom of an island, even if the top has been completely farmed out. Nickel. In this case, that's a trash map. Meaning I would make cannon shells or shipyards and whatnot out of it, which is probably exactly what I'll do. So we've got a shipyard, we need an assembly station. We'll get some of this nickel in there, and off we go. Do this up top where it's easier to see. Or I'll fall to my death. No, okay. There we go. That makes a little more sense. You'd never know I've played this game a lot. So, in the category of sneaking around, I'm currently doing what a lot of players do, because we're all impatient. We want to get to what we're doing rather than walk around. So I'm jumping, I'm grapple boosting, all in an effort to move a little bit faster. But that motion right there, that bouncing up and down motion, is actually really easy to see from a distance. So if I'm really being sneaky, I won't jump, I'll just run. And sometimes I, use my arrow keys to quarter while I'm looking around. Just a little sneaking around tip there. That bouncing popcorn movement is really easy to spot from a distance. Kind of catches the eye. So let's see if this happens to work. Nope. So I'll just build another one over here instead of waste time repairing it while you guys are patiently watching. And we'll get this stuff going. Shipyard. and assembly station. Now, I've already made the frame design for this in the ship designer, and I've taken the dinghy and I basically made it flatter from top to bottom, and I've drawn in the sides so it's not as wide. I don't need that much space. And smaller ships, it's not really that much lighter, but it's harder to hit with cannon fire. And then I've taken the sides and made them more or less straight up and down with that 45-ish degree angle section on the bottom. Now what that lets me do is these flat sides are really easy to place engines on. If an engine is, let's say, you know, kind of too far over here because your ship is angled, you know, basically if the engines aren't exactly symmetrical, the ship will pull to one side or the other. So having these flat sides makes it sort of imprecise. You can kind of slap the engines on quickly and the ship will still go straight. Might not look good, but it'll go straight. So then I have these 45-degree angle sections here, so I can put wings, a pair of wings down like that. 45-degree angle wings give you both turning and lift, so it's really efficient. So I also like to do horizontal wings, so two, one on either side, and then one vertical wing sticking off the bottom. And I played around with this frame a bit so that I know that this is low enough that the sky core will fit in here. Just the sky core. None of the, like the air filter would stick out below it if I had an air filter. And that way I can still put a wing on this bottom frame here. Now I've made sure that these two nodes are not level, so there is no deck. I have 2 decks on this ship and a fairly minimal amount of beams. So, if we look at it here, you see it only uses 59 beams and 80 material for the deck. So let's get this going. We use our tin for the beams and the ash for the deck. It takes 19 seconds to build, so while that's going, we'll get our sky core going. I'm going to make it out of iron and use some of the copper I have left as the generator. Now copper is pretty heavy and some players will avoid it for that reason, but it also gives you a little bit more lift than other materials you're likely to find in the tier 1. And that can mean the difference between being able to put 4 low-tier ships on your low-tier engines on your ship, or only 3. So I have this designed so that the core sits in here about like this, and you see that the corners stick out past the narrowing of the ship right here. That's so that you can pulse when you get on top of the ship. Alright, let's see, next we'll put on the, well, protocol would be to next put on your reviver, so we'll do that. I'm not actually going to register to this ship because I have a ship already, but we'll put it on there anyway because protocol says get a reviver on your ship right away if you don't have one. Put it right here at the front, and of course as soon as your reviver goes on you would register to it. Now I'm not going to, but you should if this was actually a ship you were going to use. Alright, next up is our helm. Now I'm going to make a wooden helm because this is not a ship that is designed to be shot at. If this ship sinks, I can replace it with stuff I can keep in my belt. I'm not worried about it at all. So, me being an American, I am going to put this helm off-center to the left. Like so. Just like a car, if you were a Brit, you might consider putting it on the right. I find it a little bit more comfortable that way. A little more intuitive, based on my real-world experience. And I have off-centered the helm so I can center the sails. The sails, just like the engines, if they are not centered, will push your ship in one direction or the other. It'll turn the ship. So if the sails are centered, they will push the ship straight no matter what. So we're gonna put this sail here. It's a little further back because I know my reviver is gonna revive me right about here. I can put this forward just a little. Now if I really wanted to, if I had a gauge, like a compass, I could mount it right there on the sail, and I could see it from the helm. Alright. I think I mentioned we're planning on putting 4 sails on this little ship, which might seem ridiculous, but that's how you get the speed. Each sail is roughly equivalent to a 20 power engine with full wind. Roughly. So, we're about to run into an issue here, and that is that this boom right here that stretches out the sail is going to keep us from being able to place this next sail on the center line. See? It clips, so it doesn't want to let us do that. So we're going to kind of cheat a little. Open up the sail, and that'll move the boom off to the side. Since we're docked, and then we haven't lifted off, it won't move the ship. Now, we can place the next sail. Open that so we're ready for the next one. And then I'm going to make 2 sails right in a row. I'll place the last 2 one right after the other. If you wanted to do this more quickly, you could have another assembly station and be making 2 things at once. In this case, the ship is so simple that I don't find that it really matters. I can do this plenty fast. Grab the one that's completed. And, oh, just barely missed my jump. Give myself a little bit of room here so I can walk between these 2 sails a little bit more easily. Open that one. Grab the last one and place it. And we'll close all these. Just cause. It always makes me feel a little strange being on the dock with the engines going and with the sails open and the thing not moving. Next and last is storage. So we'll use a barrel, since that's what new players have. Now again, I'm in the Expanse, so I have some decent materials here. Tin can sometimes be a little harder to find in Tier 1, the Wilderness, but you can certainly find it. And in all cases with this ship, the materials I'm using don't make a difference in the speed of the ship. Sails don't get faster with higher quality wood. They just can take a little bit more damage. The higher the quality, the higher the resilience. The type of wood matters. Oh, I don't want to be up here. I want to put this on the bottom. The type of wood matters quite a bit, as that's what determines the weight and the base resilience, I suppose. Even that up just a tad. There we go. There. We're done. We've got 2 barrels, one on either side. Everything is centered. The weight is even either way. The helm is off-centered. Some players seem to think that if the ship's parts are not balanced, that the ship will lift. I haven't actually found that. So let's see. I had 300 iron, I believe. I had 300 tin. 250, I didn't use the bronze at all, 300 nickel and 300 copper, and look how much I have left over from building this ship. It's really simple. It doesn't take long to build a little recovery ship, and I still have some repair mats left over, which is nice. Really nice now that wood is buffed a bit. So we'll put all this stuff away. Although, to be honest, were I actually playing this character, my belt would look like that. So I've got some stuff I want to keep because I want to give it to somebody else. I've got a torch that I found that I don't want to lose. I've got a big stack of iron for recovery. Let's see, that's iron 6, so I actually could stack these and be all happy. So there's my... with that, I can harvest, I can repair the ship that I have, And if I need to recover all of a sudden because something unexpected has happened, I have most of what I needed in my belt already. And if I wanted to have everything I needed, I could even make my belt look like that. There you go. And of course, the way this ship is set up, you could pulse on the edge right there, but it's a little hard to get to. So let's say I'm trying to pulse. I just reach down, grab that corner, and there we go. That's why I have it set up that way. The width of the core's base is pretty much what determines how wide my ship is. I want to be able to get to it from the top. Alright, let's see how this thing flies. So here's a little trick for fast opening sails. Look at the next one while you're holding the first, and when you're finished with the first one, you quickly release E and re-grab the one you were looking at. So it really only takes 3 seconds per sail. Let me rearrange my belt so I'm not losing the stuff that I really do want to keep. Oh, I do want to keep that. Pack a couple extra berries in here just cause. And we're ready to go. So, that's not a slow ship. At all. We're moving. Sure. This little thing probably won't be able to... Oh, we're not even in the full wind. we're moving quite quickly, and we're... You know... We have, what, maybe 70% wind? Let's turn it directly into the wind and see what we get. Or not into, but with the wind. See what we get. Now, turning is slow because it has no wings. And it's a sail-only ship, so you're not going to be able to get through a wind wall with it. But for puttering around inside a zone and gathering all the knowledge, these things are perfectly acceptable. Yep, that's a fast ship. According to my calculations and my experiments, even with speedometer, this ship goes about 35 in full wind. So in Tier 1, in the wilderness, just starting out, you've only spent 50 knowledge to unlock shipbuilding. You can build a ship that will go faster than anything with engines and a cannon that's built by players of the same in the same zone. Or players that haven't left the same zone, I should say. Now here's another little fun feature these days. It might be difficult to see because I'm in a cloud, but I am now oriented directly into the wind, but because I have multiple sails, I'm still moving. You can see that little island there down to the ship's right is still sliding by. So even against the wind, this ship will still move. And again, experiments I've done with speedometer have shown me that I can go about 20 knots with this design, straight into the wind. That's really usable. So that's my little survival ship. I hope that was informative. My goal really was to show, to clearly demonstrate that it doesn't need to take a long time to get back in the air with a recovery ship. And you don't need to feel like you've lost a whole lot of time and a whole lot of effort if it gets sunk for one reason or another. Anyway, thanks for watching, and we'll see each other again soon. Aloha.